Hi, I'm Betsy Barbieux, and this is CAM Matters. You'll want to join us today as we talk with Katherine Hurst Miller, a board-certified condominium attorney from the Volusia County area, as she talks with us and explains things about pets. We will be talking about the do's and don'ts and the ins and outs of what to do, what not to do. We'll be talking about the ADA, the FHA, and she's going to explain to you the first free bite rule. So come join us.
Welcome to CAM Matters, Condos, Co-ops, HOAs, and beyond. Betsy Barbieux is an informational leader in Florida on community association living, rights, and obligations. She is an expert on the rights and obligations of owners as well as the association. If you live or are planning to live in the state of Florida, there's a good chance you'll be part of a community association. And by the end of this show, you'll know a little bit more about community associations and why they matter.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Betsy Barbieux with Suzanne, Lynn, and we've got a special guest today joining us on CAM Matters.
We do.
Katherine Hurst Miller, right?
She's an attorney over in the Volusia County area. And welcome, Katherine. We are delighted to have you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. I am an attorney in New Smyrna Beach at a firm called Wright Casey. I've practiced in the Daytona Beach area almost 15 years. A lot of my practice is condominium and homeowners association. And this past year, I got board certified by the Florida Bar in condo and plan development. So that involves having practiced the area for 5 years, going through an extensive background check, and then taking a day-long exam, which I never want to have to sit through. Your CAMs know about exams. And so it's my pleasure to be the first and only board-certified attorney in Volusia County.
Yay.
That's wonderful.
That's a really big deal.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you said that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a really big deal.
Put that in scope for us. You know?
It's like being specialized in medicine.
Okay.
You're specialized in a law.
Oh, nice.
And there are a lot of attorneys who say, oh, yeah, I can help you with your condo.
They have maybe some side things that are going
they might
on
do a little bit of real estate here, a little bit there. But this is someone who's focused on that and follows the law, the case law, and all of the things. So board certified, we like.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, we like that.
Katherine, today we're talking about one of my favorite shows, and it's going to be about pets.
Either you're going to crack up or I'm going to crack up.
Well, we start getting into the support animals, and I just I picture peacocks on planes and things like that. So we're going to start the first half of the show. They're talking about what will apply to most of us, and that's just, the average pets that we have in our homes. But nothing can cause arguments more with neighbors than pets.
Well, that or children, one or the
that's
other.
True.
But the problem, to set the stage, the problem is that our community associations often have rules either forbidding pets or limiting them to a size or a weight or a breed and height.
Okay.
But then we have things like service animals, assistance animals, that some of that supersedes what's in our documents. So Katherine is going to settle some of that for us, please.
Right. So let's talk pets first, and then the service and support animals second. And the rules about pets sort of go out the window with the service and support.
Right.
Okay. But many of us have pets, and the rules you need to follow, the homeowners need to follow, are in priority the recorded covenants of the association if you're in an association, and then the published rules are second. So recorded covenants, like your declaration, first, and then board rules second. And people need to make sure they're aware of those when they buy into a community or rent in a community.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise, right? If you should, these are important things.
They should get, and see, I didn't bring them today.
You didn't.
I didn't bring your favorite papers, but they should be getting these sets of papers at closing.
So, if this comes as a surprise, it's the homeowner's fault for not checking.
For the recorded documents, clearly, and I know no one's going and combing through the clerk of court records when they buy a house,
right? She would.
But if it's in the recorded covenants with the clerk of court, homeowners and even renters are presumed to know because it's a matter of public record.
Right.
The board enacted rules that are not published with the clerk of court. You may not be as familiar with those, and homeowners are not deemed to be on notice. And that's why it's important to make sure that they're given a copy at closing or as soon as they move into the neighborhood or talking about the neighborhood. And so the most important thing is to know the rule, to follow the rule, and to apply the rule uniformly to everybody. So if you're a no pet community, just because someone is on the board or someone's sweet grandma or someone is a friend of a friend, or this dog is so precious and everybody loves it, no, you're a no pet community. So that means no pets. And the same thing happens. I don't personally love the weight limits because they get into like,
what are you going to do? Put them on a diet, right?
Now I have a really fat schnauzer and I'm over the weight limit. What do I do?
I mean, are you going to really make them get rid of their dog or put it on it? I mean, are you literally going to have a weigh? Are you literally going to have a weigh-in every 6 months? I don't know.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of issues and problems. The other thing, Catherine, that I know that we've run into with our HOA is that our HOA limits a certain amount of dogs, but then the county has a different count for pet dogs that they can have. And I mean, they don't always match up, and that kind of causes a problem. Which one supersedes in that case?
So the more restrictive controls. So if your county has a 2-animal limit, let's say, that seems kind of low, but let's say it's a 2-animal limit in the county and your HOA would allow 3, the county controls.
Okay.
But if it's a 3-pet limit and your HOA has 2, the 2 controls, right? The more restrictive is going to control as to pets.
And then there would be other standard things that apply to pet owners, like the pets have to be leashed, they need to be vaccinated, you have to pick up the poop.
Well, now because they've got DNA tests, you can tell who it's coming from.
Yeah, I have a condo that signed up, part of a group in Tennessee, and if you moved in with an animal, you had to submit a fecal for your animal. They sent it off to the lab in Tennessee, and then all poop, unclaimed poop around the association was also sent off to the lab in Tennessee to see if they could match. That dog.
I can see the ultimate goodness in that. You want a nice clean condo.
But when you go to the trade shows, you see the vendors who are selling those services, DNA kits, and pet poop stations.
Catherine, what are some misunderstandings? What are some common myths, that people don't understand when it comes to pets and HOA or condo or restrictions like that, community living?
One issue is about, dangerous animals and what constitutes a dangerous animal. And just because I am a little nervous around dogs and I don't like the sweet dog next door, he makes me nervous, that dog's not a dangerous dog. Typically, every homeowner is responsible for the actions of their pets. For, one bite, and assuming you have insurance or you don't have insurance, you as the owner of the pet are responsible, for the first bite or the first damage. If it tears up the neighbor's fence, you're responsible for that. The homeowner association or the condo association or the co-op can be responsible for a known dangerous dog. So like any condition that's allowed to persist on a property, a dangerous slip and fall surface, some sort of dangerous condition, you don't want to allow pets that are attacking other animals, attacking humans. And the association does have a responsibility to step in and make sure you got a safe premises. And it may just be a matter of saying, I'm sorry, that dog, needs to be muzzled or needs to stay in the backyard. Or it doesn't mean necessarily step one is getting rid of the animal, but it means making sure that you're providing a safe environment for all your residents.
If I heard you, what I think the key factor there is first bite. The first bite is on the owner, so to speak. But after that, are you presuming the association knows about it and then the association could be liable for a second bite?
Exactly. And it used to be the law, even as to owners, we call it the one free bite rule. That not never to be dangerous until the first time. But now there's strict liability by statute for animal owners. There's not for the association. You have to have something that it to be dangerous. It's not just, I don't like dogs, I'm nervous around dogs. No, the dog has to be a danger, a known danger before the association has the duty to step in.
Yeah, the key word was first bite. Yeah.
So can we move off dogs and move into more, now not the crazy ponies yet, but talking about like birds and things that might, especially in a condo that, they squawk. They fly out of windows. I mean, what are some of the out of the box thinking types of pets that we need to know about?
A lot of my condos have some sort of rule or restriction about, domestic or domesticated animals. And so again, you want to look at the condo docs and make sure you're following that. And some municipalities will have restrictions. But animals, a noisy animal of any kind of breed or species, can be a nuisance, right? So you didn't move into the condo to hear squawking from AM to PM all night long.
Right.
Yeah. Also, well, I lost my thought. I had a really good thought there. Keep going, Catherine.
All right. Let's keep on going.
Yeah. So
I
mean, if, again, a few sweet chirps when the sun is rising is not a nuisance, but noise all day and night is a nuisance, and use that nuisance provision. I mean, you got to protect the rest of the owners. No one bought in thinking they were going to be hearing animal noises all day long, but you can get really weird definition. We had someone who had, like sharks in a tank, and
that's what I was going to say.
Domestic animals, but does it bother anybody? But then they're on a high rise, and now we're going to have a leaking tank, floors down. So it's really can be a tough area to, you're like, why would someone have sharks in the condo? I don't know either, but they did.
Well, that was what I was going to say that left me, is that some community documents prohibit fish tanks. And it's because of that, because they leak. So they do prohibit fish tanks. Okay. So a shark tank would be really big. But
for some reason, I feel like we need to insert the song "Baby Shark."
Baby Shark.
Yeah, let's move into the commercial with Baby Shark coming in. Yeah, we'll be right back. We're going to move into more assistant type of pets. Okay.
Are you ready for a new career? Do you have skills or interest in management, real estate, construction, maintenance, accounting, strategic planning, project management, budgets, human resource management, lawn and landscaping, pool services, or any other expertise needed to operate a community association? If you do, community association management could be for you. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Florida Community Association Management continues to grow. Career opportunities abound.
Hi, welcome back to the show. I'm Suzanne Lynn with Betsy Barbieux, and we're talking to Katherine Hurst Miller today. And we're going into the section of community living when it comes to pets and rules of assistance.
And we did some general things in the first part of the show, but now I want Katherine to talk to us about the difference between the ADA and the FHA laws and how they apply to pets, and the new 2020 HUD ruling.
I'm just going to say real quick that I see people strapping these, vests on dogs, and I don't know if it's legitimate or not. I don't know. One person said that they help me know if I'm going to faint. I mean, so jump on in there and help us, because there's a lot to be clear here.
So it's an area of confusion, and it's an area where the government has given us some new guidance earlier this year. So I'm excited to be able to put that up on the screen and show that. And just a Google search of, HUD assistance animal 2020 memo will pull this up. Yeah. So HUD, Housing and Urban Development 2020 assistance animal memo. Previously, we were operating under 2013 guidelines, even with the change in federal administration.
Wow. That's a while.
So it's been a while. And they're not a major revamp of the guidelines, but they are. They're tweaked in a couple ways, and we'll talk about that, and just generally the law.
Okay.
So let me come back.
Katherine, just go ahead real quick for those of us with the cookies on the lowest shelf. What's the difference between ADA and FHA?
What are the initials stand for?
Yeah.
The ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it relates to public places and spaces.
Okay.
And the FHA is the Fair Housing Act, and it relates only to housing.
Okay.
And so if a lot of us are familiar with the ADA, and particularly when we come to support animals, trained service dogs is really what we're talking about under the ADA.
Miniature horses.
Yes, miniature ponies. I don't know
my
if
gosh.
miniature ponies got in there, but dogs and miniature ponies are protected under the ADA.
We're not done with that. You know that, right? Right. Okay.
In the language of the federal statute. So a dog or a miniature pony that is trained to perform an activity of daily living for someone with a disability, that is protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act in the language of the act. And again, so that's public spaces. So it could be a parking lot, it could be a lobby. Restaurants are governed by the ADA. Government buildings are protected by the ADA.
Okay.
The interior of a condo building typically is not, unless you are really renting out your rooms to the public, your common room, or if you're more of a condotel or an apartment complex, you may fall under the ADA as well. But pure housing, the more it looks like single family living, where people are receiving their mail, where here in Florida, people are considering it their homestead, that's FHA territory, Fair Housing Act.
Yeah.
The Fair Housing Act simply says that anyone with a disability needs to be allowed an accommodation to enjoy their housing to the same degree a person without a disability would. The act itself makes no mention of animals, accommodation, what type of animal, what type of disability. It just says someone with a disability needs to be able to enjoy their housing to the same degree that someone without a disability does. And so that's why you see, in very cookie cutter neighborhoods, if someone needs a wheelchair ramp, they can have a wheelchair ramp. That's Fair Housing Act. So it's much more than just animals. But we have specific guidance now in this 2020 memo and its predecessor about animals. And this is, we call them the emotional support animals, the emotional support pets. And there's a lot of dispute about them, whether they're legitimate or not.
It sounds like a wide open territory that
very similar
Yeah.
with the airline carriers, and they're cracking down on what they're allowing. Again, it's an emotional support. And the idea in Fair Housing Act is that we treat an emotional or an intellectual disability the same way we would treat a physical disability, which is a great way of thinking about it. It's a great approach. It's just ripe for abuse.
So we're catering, and I don't mean to downplay it, and I'm sorry if there's people that are watching, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but to compensate for somebody's emotional assistance that they need could cause more emotional stress on other people. When you're taking a pony on a plane, that's going to stress me out. I mean, like ostriches, where does the line get drawn? It seems somebody's compensation is inferior,
Right. I know like Delta Airlines has put some strict guidelines in place before you can bring your emotional or assistance pet. So,
but even with your home, I mean,
help us out, Katherine.
Yeah.
So you have to accommodate someone who has a health provider say they need this animal. So the steps of unlike the ADA, where we've all been trained, you can't ask what the disability is. If you can't see the disability, you can ask, right? So your seeing eye dog is always going to be allowed. He fits under the ADA, but he also fits under the Fair Housing Act, right? A blind person that needs a dog for assistance, it's going to be allowed. A person who has seizures and the dog alerts them that a seizure is coming on, the dog has been trained, the dog can do that. That's also going to fit within both, but someone needs to be accommodated. Where we start getting into people think a gray area is, I have major depressive disorder and my therapist said, petting this cat 20 minutes a day will help me. I have ADHD and this dog is going to assist me. I have PTSD and the bird helps me. I have a stability disorder, and so I need a large animal to go on a walk with me. And so the questions are, do you have a disability? Do you need the animal? And has a licensed health provider, set forth the need for that animal?
So you can three questions for one.
What's your disability? What does the animal do for your disability? And do you have a note or a prescription from a health provider, a licensed health provider?
Great information.
And so those are the 3 key questions. You could, if you are a board member or a manager, you could create a little form that lists that. If someone says, this is my assistance animal, you can say, complete the form, turn it back in, we'll review it and either approve it or reject it. And
good. That's good information. That helps managers and board members a lot.
And the new guidance, the 2020 HUD memo specifically says 2 things. One is internet certificates are irrelevant. They don't matter.
Finally.
We all know
Finally.
Yeah.
And I really think the vests are the same thing. I mean, they're a nice visual cue to say this is a animal doing some sort of training, but they're really irrelevant. You don't have to have a vest. Doesn't make something a support animal. The other thing that the new HUD memo says is if it's not a typical household pet, the doctor or mental health provider has to certify that you need that animal. So you can't be walking around with your emotional support alligator unless a licensed health provider says John needs an alligator. And I would hope we don't have health providers saying that.
That's incredibly useful information because we do have, people with ferrets and potbelly pigs and ostriches and peacocks and all kinds of weird things. And now we have a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Now we have a little bit of help. So I think that's awesome.
Really good information. Katherine, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yes. I'm so glad that you were here. And are there any final thoughts that you have? I know the show goes by so fast. We can keep another hour.
Let me say, anyone that's self-managed, try and work with a manager or management company. I know that the managers get trained in this. And if you have questions, talk to a lawyer. It doesn't have to be me or my firm, but please involve your lawyer because there are consequences if you wrongfully discriminate against someone with a disability.
Right. You don't want to make a mistake in the area.
Right.
And it's a lot of gray area, a lot of place to make a mistake. My favorite words, check with your attorney.
Yeah. Good advice. That's a great note to end on.
And Katherine Hurst Miller is board certified in condominium law.
Yes. Congratulations on that. We're so excited.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, and can I just say real quick?
Yes.
She has been one of my facilitators for my yearly educational summit for the last 2 years. And this is the kind of information that managers get who come to our continuing ed classes.
The highest quality information.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Y'all too.
Thank you for listening to CAM Matters. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Information provided on this show is general in nature and does not constitute legal advice. Please contact a licensed attorney for your specific situation.